Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Faith, Hope, and Payroll podcast. I believe this is our third video episode. Dave, correct me?
I think you're right.
Okay. We got Mr. David Franzonello. You want to introduce your companion there?
Yeah, and I'm going to be like, I'm trying to figure out the mic setup here, so I'm going to be craned over sideways the whole time trying to be on camera. But this is my lovely wife, Kelly Franzonello. Can you say hello, Kelly?
Hello.
And this is my beautiful bride, Amanda Jones. I want to start out with a zinger. So, Kelly, what's it like raising 8 children?
Oh, you probably have a good answer for that, though, right?
It's like there's 2 people who want things to be orderly and clean, and then there's 6 people that just don't care, and the 2 people that do care are myself and my oldest daughter. Mm-hmm. So
I didn't think that was going to be the answer you were going to go with. I thought, but this is a few years back. She used to call her dad her 8th child.
Yeah.
Especially when he was in seminary and he was going to school and like he was coming home for visits, she felt like he was another kid. So I thought she was going to redirect on that one, but
sorry.
Yeah,
I could have.
Did he have a room in the house still?
He still
during
does.
that time?
He does still.
Yeah.
Oh, he does still.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's nice. That's awesome. So you homeschool as well. How's that been going?
I think I'm the worst homeschool mom ever. And every year in August, I'm like, where are we sending the kids this year to school? I'm putting them in school this year. I'm not doing it. And then I end up homeschooling the next year. We do the St. Augustine's program, and it basically does it for me, aside from a few subjects. But yeah, I know it's the best thing. I think it's hard, and I don't think I'm the best at it, but.
So I will say that I think the St. Augustine's thing has been great. We've been doing that for years, but I know it's still stressful, but I think years ago there was probably more screaming about finding a school to put the kids in when you had to figure out curriculums and things on your own. And now, I mean, we still do some of that, but we follow a lot of the St. Augustine's. But I'm curious if it's the same in your household.
Not exactly. I'm already lesson planning for next fall because I am the worst homeschool mom ever and I have no accountability. So I have an online planner where I put every assignment in. So it gives me a foolproof guideline of where I need to go every single day, or I'll just throw it out the window and be like, you know what, go play outside. I don't care.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do it, and I don't plan it. So we do a lot of playing outside.
We've noticed too that a lot of our friends in the co-op that we're part of, early I guess it would be early school year, late summer, and then late spring. Half the days you're outside anyways. It's almost like you're ready. You're not ready to start, and then you're also ready to end early almost.
Well, I'm going to ask my wife a question because you got right into the homeschooling stuff.
Yeah. Did I skip? I did. I apologize.
No, I mean, that's okay. But actually, you know what? Before we get into any of these questions, should we address the elephant in the room? I know everybody's thinking about it. Not the elephant in your room, but I mean, I know you guys want to talk about it, how I took first place at the pie eating contest this weekend.
You made a point to text me about that too, actually. I wonder, can we pull that up somehow? We'll have to get him to superimpose that on the screen.
Should I try and pull the Facebook video up and play it?
Oh, there you go.
No. I don't know, how can I
Yeah, well, there's a picture, but anyway, I'm kidding, but I did want to ask a question. Well, I'm not kidding. Everybody should know, that I took first place in a pie eating contest this weekend.
And this is the serious Victor face. It's kind of hard to see, but.
But I just had a flashback in my mind about the early days of homeschooling, and you're probably not having the same flashback. But how have the challenges changed? The challenges were different in the early days than I think they are now. Now we have kids. They go to St. Augustine's co-ops. There's a challenge of getting them there. It's a very rigorous program, so there's a lot of schoolwork. But I was thinking about some funny challenges we had in the early days. I don't know. Do you have any memories of challenges in the early days?
like the baby gate?
That's what I was thinking of. Yes.
We had a baby gate across the kitchen doorway so that I could be on the other side doing schoolwork in the dining room with the kids, and whoever was the baby at the time would just stand. It was usually Cordia. Would stand at the gate and scream and just not stop screaming.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The early days of homeschooling, when everybody was little, as I'm sure you guys have a similar situation, but we had, 4 kids very close together. So when you were homeschooling the first couple, there was babies, in the house, and it was crazy. And I think we'll get to some questions on that later, how things have evolved. But yeah, that was definitely very different at the beginning. So, Eric, did you have another question you want to ask? You want me to
No,
go?
I was just looking at the workflow on my phone right here. Go ahead.
So, this is Faith, Hope, and Payroll. We talk about payroll and business stuff and our careers, and we talked a little bit on our first episode, like our origin story.
Yeah.
And I think we probably referenced our wives and them supporting us, allowing us to do what we do. I often say, when people, I tell people about my family at work, they're like, "Oh, you must have it so hard." And I say, "Oh, I get to go hide out at work all day while my wife does all the work." But Amanda, maybe you could tell me what it's like supporting your husband in his career, and unique in your case, not just a career, but he runs his own business. So I'm curious what it's like supporting your husband.
So I was talking to him earlier about this because I feel like I don't do that much, at least from the business standpoint. I do absolutely nothing. But, being a business owner, he has to be there for certain things. He can't delegate everything. He has to sort of be on ground zero at certain times of the year. He has to be in the office really late. So sometimes that looks like, I'm a single mom in January, essentially. And he comes home at 10 o'clock at night and he's beat. So I have to maybe pull back my urge to just, trauma dump on him the second he walks through the door, because he's got his own mental load to deal with.
Yeah. You said January. I was thinking, I don't know if you remember, because I've worked in payroll for years as well, but it never had the same stresses as a business owner. But there's definitely the busy season, right? And I can remember coming down our stairs in our house and yelling like, "This is the last January I ever work," and at unnamed payroll company, not Workforce Pay, but another payroll company. But it was just always. I used to say that. I'd say, "Oh, it's the holidays, the time of year where we all start to hate each other," right? Because it's just so busy in payroll. It's just crazy. So yeah, I get that, but I've never been in a situation where I have to be there late at night, or I am the only one. I mean, I managed for a little while, but still it was different. I wasn't really the only one that people were relying on to make sure things got done at the end of the day.
So I have a follow-up question for Kelly, too, kind of related to what Amanda just mentioned. So Dave was working in the office for many years. The last couple of years, he was able to be home most days. And now I think he's back in the office, I think mostly full-time. How is that transition both from him not being there, and now him not being there again?
So he started working from home during COVID. So he was home for 6 years. And and right around the time our daughter was born, who was 6. So she never knew life without dad working at home. And same with our 2-year-old. He's always just thought dad was home. He's only in 3 days a week, but sometimes they'll just be like, "Oh, I'm going to go talk to dad real quick." I'm like, "Dad's not here." But for me, I would put the little ones down for a nap and then let them know that I was going to go to the trail and go for a run or something. And now I can't do that. I can't leave them behind and go to the grocery store. I have to either take them with me or schedule things for when one of the older kids can watch the younger kids. So it's really cut down on my freedom. But
well, it has
to do what you have to do.
Timing wise, right now, it's not that bad because people. Well, although I guess the kids are working, but there's older kids home right now, so there's some rotation of that. I did notice that Francesco, our 2-year-old, he's starting to not like it. Like he yells at me in the morning. He's like, "Don't go to work, Daddy. Don't go to work." He gets mad. He's like, "What are you doing? Why are you leaving?" So, but I was actually thinking of another story and preparing for this, and I don't want to put stories in your mouth. But do you remember I worked from home in support. So when I was at Thomson Reuters originally, I was in technical support. And then they let some of the more senior reps go from home during busy season because they would hire a lot of interns. And I remember we had to put a lock on that door. We were in a tiny little house, 1,000 square foot, no basement. And so we had no locks on any of the doors. We had to put a lock on the door because the kids I was using the girls' bedroom as my office, and they would try and come in there all the time, so we had to lock it. But do you remember coming into the room once? I was wearing that Eddie Bauer fleece and making a comment to me?
No.
No. Well, it's not going to be as funny coming from me, but I remember her coming in to check on me and, like, you know, kind of putting her arms around me, looking at what I was doing. And then she was leaning over me and she said, are you going to shower one of these days? Because I think you're getting used to the work from home life. I never had to go to the office. And yeah, I should probably shower. I forgot about that since I don't actually have to go to an office. So
That's funny.
There's pluses and minuses. I consider that one a plus, to not going into the office.
How many kids did you have in 1,000 square feet?
4.
Yeah.
4. Wow.
I was pregnant with number 5 when we moved, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was really sick. I'm like, I have the flu or something right when we're moving. And shortly after, I found out Benno was coming.
So,
wow.
Amanda, what's it like when Eric works from home? When everybody went and started working from home at COVID, like you see lots of people posting things online. Like I'd never realized my husband was the, let's circle back around to that guy, because they'd overhear their spouse on a work call. What's it like with Eric at home?
So my kids have some sort of superpower that they can feel when a client calls him. So he can be working in his office for hours. They don't bother him at all. The minute somebody tries to actually talk to him, they flock to the door. And then I'm just running interference, shooing them away from the door, shush, shush, dad's on call. And other than that, he's pretty low maintenance when it comes to working. He hides away in our room, but the kids are definitely a challenge with.
So do you have locks? Does Eric get to lock himself in a room or no?
He does, yeah.
Okay.
But they start banging on the door, and it's like you can hear it. So I almost need 2 doors. I need an outer door and an inner door.
You just hear bangs and screaming, and I can only imagine what the clients think is going on.
So I don't know why I haven't actually put a doorknob lock on this door. I have a doorknob, but with no lock, and I put one of those little hooks on it.
Yeah.
So I can keep the kids out. But then you definitely hear it because you hear them rattling at the hook, and I'll be like, go away. And they're like rattling at the hook, but at least it keeps them out. You were talking about how you could sometimes run out when I'm on the phone. Well, years ago, I was on a call, and I was working in a pod with some other people in my territory. You weren't here for this because you went to the store. Her mother was still alive at this point, and her mother needed a lot of help. She was kind of more or less bedridden or in her chair. So I'm on a call with my team and like our director, who I never talked to, and we're on camera. And right above me is where my mother-in-law was in her chair. My wife had gone to the store. She's like, I'm going to the store quick, And I hear my mother-in-law screaming for me. She's texting me. So I waited until thought I wasn't going to be talking for a minute, and I turned my camera off, and I sprinted upstairs to see what was going on. And whatever kid had been left home at the time had decided to go to the bathroom, was incapable of wiping themselves, and they were screaming for her, so she was screaming for me. So I took care of it and got back on camera before I think anybody even really missed me. But I'm a little bit of an oversharer, if you haven't figured that out. So I ended up the next time I was in the office and I ran into the director, I told him the story. I was like, well, this is what actually happened when we were on camera. But got lots of fun stories like that. I've had kids busting my door coming through with that thing that Benedict would push that
toy.
clacks. It's a clacker as he's like, I'm on an important call. He just walks through clacking this thing. But lots of that sort of stuff when working from home.
I always have to apologize with people when I'm on the phone. It was actually, I had a bit of a stomach bug 3 weeks ago, and I was home for 2 days in a row. I think it was a Wednesday, Thursday, which is almost never happens. And there was a new new prospect rather, that emailed me from one of our referral partners, and he absolutely had to talk. It was Wednesday afternoon, and I'm throwing up and all this other stuff. he's like, I gotta talk. So we ended up talking for like 45 minutes. I scheduled my throw up right before I got on the phone with him, and then I threw up right after we got off the phone with him. I held it in. I was very, very proud of myself. But the kids came in for that call too, as I'm in my bed on my phone, and he wanted to quote the same day. So I'm trying to get my laptop out because I hadn't opened it yet that day. But that's my most recent fun story.
I'm impressed that you timed the throw up so well.
It was a God thing.
Yeah,
He totally wanted me to have that phone call, I think.
Yeah.
So they haven't become a client yet, though. I actually just emailed him again today.
I'm tightening up my microphone so we don't end up like Father Pat with this like sliding down. I feel like it's already starting to move. Moving on in questions. So yeah, because I'm sure, Eric, we can keep telling stories to our wives about when we work from home and do things. But I wanted to ask Amanda, I kind of have some ideas of what you'd say on this, but we both have families with 7 children, right? And that's a lot. And people always say that, right? They say, oh, you must be so busy or whatever they say. But what are some of the biggest misconceptions you think people have about big families or raising a big family?
So the one I get a lot is that you can't possibly pay attention to all of those children and give them enough nurturing and enough attention. And that's just objectively false, because most of the time they don't want to hang out with me. They want to hang out with each other. They need me for meals, Band-Aids, sometimes not even those things. And they have this like community amongst themselves. And those relationships are so fun to watch and so important. And, I was by far the youngest in my family. So I grew up by myself because everybody else was grown up. And I always wanted to have siblings. And I think you miss so much when you don't have a lot of kids. And, some families are different, but I really enjoy it in our family, seeing the kids play with each other and build bonds with each other.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, we were just talking about this over the weekend too, because because I was sick on Wednesday, Thursday. I almost never go into the office on Friday, but I went into the office a couple Fridays ago. And I brought one of my daughters with me. The way she talks or behaves when she's by herself versus with other siblings, like it's almost like they're different people. And then you can bundle them together. You might take 2 or 3 of them with you, and they act totally different than they do as a whole, or you just bring 2. It's kind of interesting because very rarely, I think, do I actually see who each child is by themselves, because they're always with each other. But it's interesting to see snippets from my perspective, because I'm not always here. It's snippets of being able to see who they are with different people and how they change perhaps a little bit with their company. It's just, I think it's fascinating.
Well, I was going to ask Amanda, just because you mentioned there was nobody close to you. How many kids were in your family?
So I am the youngest of 5, but it's sort of all of my siblings are halves.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have 3 older brothers and 1 older sister, and everybody was out of the house by the time I was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That is interesting.
So you were like an only child.
Yeah.
Almost. Okay.
It explains a lot, I assure you.
No, but that's so different than, like, I have 2 brothers and that's it. He has 9 siblings. So having a ton of kids wasn't just something that I was used to. And sounds like it wasn't that way with you either. So.
Wait, Dave, you have 9?
What's that?
He's
You
one
have
of
9?
Yeah, I'm one of 10 kids. Yeah. You
I
didn't
didn't
know
realize it was 10.
that? Yeah.
Wow.
Right in the middle.
Well, one thing I wanted to say, you said other mothers are like, oh, you can never give your kids attention if you have that many kids.
We don't.
We don't.
No.
Well, it's true, but they don't. First of all, they don't need you constantly on them. But second of all, I actually feel like we give our kids more attention than other mothers because we're with them all of the time. I feel like I give my kids plenty of attention, more than they need, probably more than they want sometimes, and more than moms who send their kids to school, moms who work, and I'm not knocking either of those. That's fine. This August, I'll be looking at schools again. But we do spend so much time with our kids together and separately. And I think that's just such a false thing to say. It drives me crazy when people say that.
Yeah. What do you think are some other misconceptions? I think you'd probably say same things as Amanda. Is there anything else, though, that are misconceptions about a large family? Because I got one in mind.
What? No TV?
Well, oh, no.
You must not watch TV.
No, just that it is a lot of work. But one thing we would always say about two children.
2 kids was harder than 7. 2 kids was so hard. And our first 2 were 14 months apart. So we had 2 babies. It was really, really hard. 7 is easier. Frank, which was a really hard delivery for me, was easier than when I had my second baby, and he was my 7th baby.
It's obviously, there's a lot when there's 7 people. There's a lot of driving. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of expenses. But like I don't know, we kind of stuck to this. We always said like 2 kids was the hardest because we had 2 close together. We didn't know what we were doing, right? We were new parents. And then by the time you had a third, like then they did have that little ecosystem, right, that they created. Like, and the oldest was starting to become helpful. We had an exceptional oldest, right? The one she was joking about. They're the only 2 who care if it's clean. But even with the others, they all help. They play together. So like as you have more, in some sense, like certain things become easier, right? I had a boss, Brooks Carlson, right, he had 7 kids when I started working for him, and I think we had 2 at the time. I think we had just had David, and he said to me, like, he didn't know anything about me, but like at the time he's like, I'm telling you, you'll never regret having another kid. You'll never have one more and be like, oh, that was too many, right? And I mean, I'm not. He didn't necessarily mean it for the reasons we were just talking about, but he's right. And yeah, and it does become easier. I mean, they take care of each other. They take care of stuff for you. Today, my son Luciano he's favorite child status right now. They take care of stuff for you. Like I had to grill dinner. And I saw on Facebook Marketplace somebody was giving away a free bike repair stand, and it was a very expensive one. And I couldn't leave, and it was just at the curb, and it was going to go. And Luciano went and picked it up for me. He's taking care of stuff for me. They're making life easier. So,
how many drivers do you guys have right now?
Too many. We have
3
and a 4th with a permit. So,
wow.
Does Gabe have his permit?
He is just finishing up segment 1.
Okay.
Oh.
So he has one more drive with an instructor and then the test. So
yeah,
we're getting there.
Well, Cordia just drove me to the grocery store actually right before this, because we're having drinks on the call, and I had to go get some supplies. So Cordia is like, well, I'll drive because she wants to get an hour. So yeah,
Some liquid courage.
So
speaking of going to the store, either of you, I'm not sure, what's your most favorite inappropriate comment that people have made when you have a bunch of the kids with you at once?
Oh, with the kids? I was thinking of the guy when we were in downtown Chelsea.
Or whatever story. You normally get it when you have
It's not
3 or 4
appropriate. I
kids.
don't really
well,
want
you
to say it.
can blurb it out or something. What?
You don't remember? We had just Frank with us, and he was like, "Oh, he's so cute. How old is he?" And we were like, "Oh, he's 2." Or actually, it was like 1. He was a little guy. And he was like, "Oh, that's great. Are you going to have any more?" And Dave was like, "Well, actually, we have 7 kids." And the guy, I don't really even want to say this. He's like,
I don't remember what he said. I remember it was probably
"Have
bad.
you ever heard of a condom?" I'm like, oh. What a jerk. But anyway.
Yeah, that might have been
awful.
one of the worst. You get a lot of the, oh, do you know how that happens? Or, whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So my wife recently had a older lady mention that to her. Tell them your reply.
Are we talking about the I have a degree in biology thing? Or I have a tendency to be not shy.
Yeah.
So I have a degree in biology. And I've been known to say, well, stop me when I'm wrong, and give a very detailed description of how that happens.
I thought that was just Eric that would do that sort of thing to people, make them feel uncomfortable.
No.
Okay, all right.
So, and then people will shockingly say, that's wildly inappropriate to talk about. I'm like, you asked.
You brought it up.
Yeah.
So my favorite, that wasn't the story I was thinking of. My favorite is an older lady says, "You do know how that happens?" The same questions I'm sure you guys have heard. And my wife's smart reply was, "Yes, and apparently I'm better at it than you are." And
I'm surprised when you get that comment at church. We've gotten that question
Me
at church.
too. It
It's
drives me
okay,
crazy.
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So,
oh my goodness.
you
These
know,
fruits
I
multiply.
don't think she'll ever listen to this, but my sister Laura, she likes to post stuff on Facebook a lot, and she's a good person, and she's usually right about the things she's posting about, but she comes across the wrong way. But I remember her one time posting on Facebook about like she doesn't understand, like she's never gotten these types of comments as a large family. Like, do you remember that? She was
Yes,
posting like,
she's like, I've only had welcoming.
I've only had
positive
welcoming comments. I
support."
don't know why people like say that, like people are, make rude comments about large families. And I just think to myself, like, I grew up in the same family as her. We used to get that
Well,
stuff as kids all the time, being 1
She
in
lives
10.
in Steubenville,
Yeah.
and that's just, you just expect that most families, well, not most, but there's so many large.
She probably
families
does live in
there.
an area where she doesn't get it now, but yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking about church, because you wouldn't think you would get those comments at church, but you do. So, yeah.
Sorry.
So I was.
I'm on my second water now. You guys
Okay,
enjoy
oh,
your wine.
boy.
or whatever.
Slow down.
I was looking at our questions, and I might be getting ahead of ourselves, but I was thinking about the one. So maybe Amanda has an idea on this, or either of you. But Amanda, what's the one household rule you had to make that you never thought you'd have to make?
No Legos.
No Legos. No Legos?
I boycotted Legos because I've slipped on them in the middle of the night and, sprained things. And at some point I was just like, we will have no Legos in this house at all.
We have not been gifted Legos. None of the kids have been gifted Legos in probably eight plus years now.
So we have a ton of Legos, but I will say that, so the way our house is we used to live on the second floor. We're in the basement right now, and then there's 2 floors above us. And so when we lived here with our in-laws, because we did for years, we lived on the second floor. And it's interesting to go up there now because it's just trash that we don't live up there
'Cause we
anymore.
don't go up there
So we
anymore.
moved down to the first floor. But the Legos stay up on the second floor. And if we were still living up there, I think if I had to go to the bathroom at night, I would step on Legos because there's Legos everywhere, often up there. But not on the floor down here, so we haven't had to ban them. We probably had like a more inappropriate conversation about rules. There's things that I've yelled in this house that I can't believe I've had to yell, and it usually probably has something to do with butts or somebody touching somebody's butt and saying like you're never allowed to do that, or it's just it. We were laughing about that before, things that I probably shouldn't say on a podcast, but we both thought of those inappropriate things as we read that question, thinking like, yeah, there's probably some stuff we never thought we'd have to say out loud that we did. It's been kind of crazy, but yeah.
We have to discuss flushing the toilet. Like to this day, the little kids, they just like to do their business. Sometimes there's toilet paper, sometimes they're not. You scratch your head when there's no toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sitting there. And
Yeah,
like,
so
lovely.
that's actually so when we moved from our 1,000 square foot house, we just kind of like the bathroom was just open door policy, right? Because there was one bathroom in that house, and there was 6 people. So then we moved into this house with my in-laws, and I think at some point I had to tell people, it's like, look, you got to close the door when you go to the bathroom, and you have to flush the toilet when you're done. I know at our old house, like somebody else was coming in right after you, so you didn't necessarily flush, but I had to drill that into people. When we were living in a house, we had to learn to be with other people, and more bathrooms, we had to learn to be a little more civilized. So
How many bathrooms do you have now? Is it 3?
We have 3 full bathrooms and 1 half bath. So
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
4 toilets. It works.
Yep,
Yeah.
we have 4 toilets as well as 3 showers. So
and then of course we've got some property, so really unlimited bathrooms. So yeah.
we did have to make a rule. The boys, our house is surrounded by woods, but the farther you go towards the road, we have some neighbors at the road. So we've had to make some policies where they have to do their business in the back side of the house or behind a tree. It can't just be in the open anymore.
So I was one of 10 growing up, right? And my dad was a dentist, and he would occasionally bring on like partners or young dentists or like whatever. They work for him for a little bit. And I think he was having a partner over for dinner once. Like he had a new guy coming on. He's like, come over for dinner. And we lived in a neighborhood. And I think my brother Vincent was in the front yard naked, peeing on a tree. So that was an interesting way for this partner to meet the family. But no. It's not just us. Stuff like that happens with lots of big families. So, yeah.
So it could be a Franzonello thing, though.
Could be, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Well, I've got lots of questions here. What do you want to ask next?
Let's go into faith a little bit, because I think Kelly's got, and for those that haven't listened to all of the episodes, like Kelly, she's got an interesting faith component that very few people can say. I don't know, Kelly, if you want to talk about it just a little bit and your thoughts on the whole process.
So, like Dave said, we lived with my parents because my mom was disabled. So we took care of her. My dad worked full-time and had to travel. So I was basically her full-time caregiver. She passed away in 2020. And shortly after that, my dad decided he was going to become a priest, went to the seminary, and was ordained a year ago in June of 2025. So I support it fully. I love it. I tell people all of the time, I would not be okay with a stepmother. So the priestly life is good I like it. He comes and says mass in the living room. It's great.
So I thought you were going to just we've talked about her being a better Catholic than me.
Well, she is, obviously. Yeah. Look what stock she comes from. So
today we were at, what was the name of the bookstore we were at?
Our Lady of Grace in Domino's Farms.
Yeah, in Domino's Farms. So anyway, and you named, what's the thing, the incense thing?
The thurible?
See, I didn't know it was called a thurible. Eric, you would probably know that. You guys could probably talk about something. Eric, actually, I wanted to ask Amanda about all the stuff that Eric buys, but not your feelings on that. But anyway, today she's like, we should get this thurible for my dad because their dad says mass here. And he's like, he says mass here all the time, and he could do incense here. So we're thinking about instituting that at the Franzonello family living room mass.
Do you guys have like a portable kneeler?
No, we don't. We have a table we use as an altar table, and we have all the setup, but no, we don't have a kneeler. We just kneel on the ground, and so does he.
There you go.
It's on carpet.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh my goodness. So we have two thuribles. We have two sets of cruets. Father John Hedges gave us the original cruets he had when he was first ordained that were gifted to him. We have a tabernacle that Father Hedges gave to us. We've got, I think we have one, maybe two chalices.
Yeah.
We have two monstrances.
Wow.
We don't have a ciborium. We do need to get a ciborium.
So I imagine that, you probably feel positive about all that, Amanda. Like the things that, like when I'm looking on my phone, I'm looking at cars I want to buy or bike stuff I want to buy. And when I would go to conferences with Eric, he's looking at, religious paraphernalia that he wants to buy. And he's like, oh, I can get this shipped in from, wherever. And he's like, oh, I want to buy this. What are your feelings on that?
So I'm mostly supportive of it. It is, sometimes the shipping is like ridiculous, but like, what do you say? Because he's rescuing relics and, things that were being auctioned off to who knows where or who. And, we've got some really, really cool relics.
You could really cash in on the whole reorganization that's going on in the Archdiocese of Detroit.
I intend on getting a nice altar from one of these beautiful churches that gets shut down.
Yeah.
I could go for some windows maybe.
That would be really nice, yeah.
So it wasn't Padre Pio, but I kept thinking the story was Padre Pio. Who was it? It was a different saint. I recently found the story. The woman went to confession and she was despairing about her husband who had died.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was Padre Pio.
It wasn't Padre Pio because I found the story recently and it was another saint. But anyway, this woman had went to confession with a saint and he had a vision. Basically said she was worried about her husband.
Oh, it was the Cure of Ars. Come on, the Cure of Ars. What's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
Cure of ours.
Cure of Ars. He's the only diocesan priest. I can see what he looks like in my mind.
I had it in
Tell
my,
the story.
I had it in a text group, but anyway.
St. John Vianney.
St. John Vianney. So the story was that this woman was distraught about her husband, and the priest said, "Look, I've had a vision. Your husband is in heaven." And essentially, it boiled down to like he would let her get, and it might have been just a specific statue, but he would let her get like religious art, or he'd let her, buy a religious statue when she wanted to, and that was enough act of faith. To get him in heaven. So whenever my wife wants to buy something, I remember that story. I'm like, well, that's my ticket to heaven. Like, I'm letting her get everything religious articles she wants to buy. And Amanda, I think you should take that to heart too. Whatever he wants to buy, let him buy it. It'll be your ticket to heaven. So
I'll probably have a, enclosed trailer behind me in heaven. With all the,
yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it. How is the chapel coming along, by the way?
It is coming along slowly.
Okay. When's it going to be finished?
That's a great question. The original thought was for the baptism of Elias. So
No, originally it was for the baptism of Samuel.
Oh, so it was supposed to be done 3 years ago. I would say we've got another 3 to go.
Did you ever fix that roof line, that mismatched roof line?
I didn't.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Remember I teased you because you showed us how you figured out the angles, and I teased you. I was like, oh, the angle's wrong. And
Oh, that roof line. I thought you were talking about I need to fix one of the shingles. I put the last shingle on backwards. And I thought that's what you were talking about.
no, I didn't. I didn't know about that.
So when you put the last shingle on the ridge, I guess you could do it more than one way, but I thought originally all I needed to do was to reverse the shingle and pop 2 nails in it, and then put black tar on those 2 nails, and I call it a day. So that's what I did. I found out what most people will do is do that, and then they'll put a final cap on those 2 nails with another shorter shingle, where it's just tar. There's no nail in it, and it's just tar holding it down. So it's on the list of things to eventually get back on the roof, to put one last shingle on to cover those 2 nail holes that I just put tar on.
I did some roofing, I would say years ago, but it was 20-something years ago, right? When we were dating, I worked for Brian Nelligan and did some roofing, but I don't really remember it. I just did a lot of it under his guidance and stuff. But the interesting thing was we did a lot of slate roofing, where you had to take these pieces of slate tile, they're just like thin rock, and we'd have to like tap very carefully to put a nail through them. If you tap too hard, you'd split the piece of slate. It's very interesting.
You came out of your pay,
that was in Steubenville, and all these people wanted to maintain their, old slate roofs, but very interesting stuff.
I appreciate you offering to come help roof my chapel, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Luciano could help him, right? Luciano's probably
Well, he's
getting
doing
some.
Well, it's done now. Where were you 6 months ago, I guess?
I didn't know you needed help. You didn't say anything. So,
Okay.
So looking back at our questions, what's something there was a question that we had that said, what's something you said my kids will never do, and then they absolutely did? But I want to change that question to what's one thing like we said, what's one thing I said I'd never do, but then I did?
I don't know.
You know, I remember.
You're
Okay.
looking at something very specific that I can't.
Didn't I say at one point, like when our kids were young, I was like, I'll never
Make a deal with my kids. That's right.
never make a deal with my kids, right? Like, because they're like, let me make you a deal. I'm like, I'm never making a deal with my kids. It's how it's what I say. It's like, there's no deals here.
We make deals.
Now my wife
the
teases
time.
me all the time. She's like, you always make deals with the kids. Now, you used to say, I'm never going to make a deal with the kids, but now I always make deals with the kids now.
I make deals with the kids too. Amanda was paying. We were at a on Saturday. We were at a grad party, open house party, and Samuel. He's 2, I think. Yeah, he's 2. Just turned 2.
No,
Yeah.
he's about to turn 3.
No, he's about to turn 3. I was
Okay.
the other one around. Long story short, he's a little bit of a menace, a beautiful bundle of joy menace, and she actually paid one of his older siblings $20 to watch him during the 3-hour party, and then you paid her an extra 10. You were going to pay her an extra 10 for something.
Oh, I can't remember. She bailed though halfway through, so she didn't get the $20, and that was a difficult life lesson. She's like, "Well, I feel like I should get half of it," and I'm like, "We had an agreement."
Yeah. Yeah, we're not probably good at holding up on deals, though, are we? Or else Cordia wouldn't be going on that trip, would she? Yeah, so Cordia made us a deal to go on this trip. She's supposed to be, and it's a trip that it is with her school's Scola group, and they're visiting churches and things. But I was really hesitant about her going. But we made a deal and made a contract that she had to give me a daily hug. She had to go mountain biking with me like 15 times. She had to finish her math every morning. I don't know what else. There was a couple.
She has to
be
have a
pleasant around the house.
attitude.
I don't think she held up her end of the bargain on any of it. But we did go mountain biking the other day, and she did let me give her a half hug after confession today. We went to confession today, and I gave her a half hug, and she didn't push me away. So that was good. But so you said Samuel is a little bit of a menace. So I don't know if you could talk about kids being different, or are your kids all the same?
Oh, no. Yeah. I thought I was like gifted at parenting after our first two, because we would take them to mass. They would kneel. They would pray along. They were just beautifully pious children. And I'm like, I'm rocking this. And then we had Evie, who earned the nickname Spitfire really early on. And she's matured quite a bit, but for some reason, we have Simon Peter and Samuel, who are they're developing some really great leadership skills and resourcefulness. They're going to be highly functional adults if we can keep them out of prison.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were being sarcastic. Well, not sarcastic, but spinning it as a positive with the leadership. But we've definitely had that experience. We probably thought we were the greatest parents ever with Mercy, and she, sometimes I think she's we don't know where she came from, but they're all different, right? And they all have their different strengths, their different weaknesses. I mean, David and Luciano, I think, are like just an interesting case study because they're so close in age. I feel like they did so much together, but they're very
different.
similar in a lot of ways, but they're also just very different. And I think we didn't raise them differently, right? Like they just different personalities. They turned out very different. And what would you say about us as parents now versus in the early days?
We're soft, fluffy parents. We barely punish anymore. We used to be consistent. We used to be. I mean, my older kids say that we were the strictest parents ever, and that we still are, because we do have a lot of rules. Like, we don't do sleepovers. We restrict quite a bit for our kids, what they can watch, what they can do, because we're terrible. But the younger kids, I don't know, I just feel like they run amok and they do whatever they want. And they say, I want ice cream. So he comes home with ice cream because they said they wanted it. I'm like, I don't want to.
We're doing a podcast tonight. It was a great night for ice cream, but I got in trouble for that.
I just cleaned the kitchen, and ice cream makes a huge mess, and nobody needs another treat.
Francesco is probably our most mischievous child.
No, and Francesco.
Our two youngest are very mischievous, but we're probably also worse parents now. We're just more tired.
We're tired.
But I don't think I don't think we've ever had a problem with a kid wielding a knife as much as Francesco. Somehow he seems to always get his hands on a knife.
That's not true. One time, Benedict got a knife and threw it at Dave when they were.
Well, that was
wrestling.
a closed pocket knife. Yeah, he did try.
He was watching Daniel Boone, and he thought he could throw him.
Yeah. So, but Francesco's just into everything. Like, we never childproofed this house. So when we moved into this house, we had Benedict, then we had Ave. And there was 4-year gap between them.
Cordia was only 3.
And Cordia was 3. And then finally just had Francesco. He was about 2.5. But we had never childproofed the house because we just didn't need to. But with Francesco, he just gets into everything, every cupboard, every whatever. He's just nonstop terror machine. So, and our house is constantly a mess because you could clean up the living room and then you could walk into it 10 minutes later and the floor is entirely covered with everything that he's gotten out. So, but we're tired. I think with Mercy, we would have made her probably at 1.5 years clean the stuff up. With Francesco, it's like, whatever, like we'll put it away later. So,
we found our kids like climbing. So in our old house, it was kind of short ceilings. I think they were only like 7.5 foot ceilings. They were shorter than normal. This house, we have cathedral ceilings in the main living room area where the kitchen is. So whenever we buy sweets, like when we have a party or we're going to do s'mores that weekend, I'll buy chocolate and marshmallows and whatnot. I have to put them at the top of the cupboard, like on top of the cupboard. It's, I don't know, maybe 8 to 9 feet up there. They will climb onto the counter. From the counter, they'll climb onto the front of the fridge because maybe a foot of the fridge sticks out. They'll climb onto the top of the fridge and then get to the top of that 9 foot. And
Yeah, I think you've told me this before. I don't think we've ever had quite that issue, but no,
This is generally the 2-year-old too.
Yeah.
He is completely fearless and terrifying. We don't typically baby proof much either, but we baby proofed the boys' room, the little boys, because we have to put Sammy down for a nap so he doesn't lose it. But he doesn't like it, so he'll escape. And we've got so many doors that lead outside that he'll just go out one of the side doors and go to the playground without being able to see him. So we put those little doorknob covers on his doorknob and on the adjoining bathroom, and we're like, that'll keep him in until he's big enough to understand he has to stay. No, he managed to open his very heavy window, pop his screen out.
Really?
And climb out his first floor window. And we had just put him down, and I look out the door, and there he runs out to the playground.
That's scary.
The window is somewhere between 5 and 6 feet from the bottom of the window to the outside ground.
And I'm thinking, like, how do you contain this child and keep him from falling out of windows?
Yeah, we think Francesco's bad, but he's not that bad. He does let himself out, but
we finally anchored some heavy furniture because I'm so worried that like we've never done that, but I'm like, we've got to anchor your dresser, we have to anchor the sideboard to the wall and the armoire, because
that's true. We've never done that with any other kids, but yes, I finally do have furniture hooked to the wall so it can't tip over. But yeah,
so I have a question for both of you, because some of the people that are probably going to watch this are younger, not married yet, or perhaps some people are married with 1 or 2 kids and debating having more, or people are single. And like at one point, Evie didn't want to get married. She was going to live with us forever and take care of us when we got old. And now she's debating which of 3 guys she's going to marry. So.
Sounds like Ave.
She's 9.
She's only 9. So, but for everyone, what is from each of you perhaps, what is the greatest positive or one of the best positives for 1, getting married, and 2, having 1 or more children? For maybe each of you, what your thoughts on that are.
You want to go first?
No, you go first. I don't know what to
So, I mean, I could probably talk about this for a while, but, one thing with getting married, I'm not sure quite how to phrase this, but I think just finding somebody or having somebody that, like, you're committed to and, like, you're secure in and, like, like, you're never walking away from each other gives you, like, a different confidence level in life. I've thought about that a lot. I think I still have lots of dreams about, like, not finishing papers or not showing up to class. And I have dreams about, like, not being able to find a spouse, just anxiety things that, like, as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult you had. And I just think, having somebody that you can come home to, or somebody that you might fight with occasionally or whatever, but it's that commitment gives you a lot of confidence and a lot of comfort in life. And then with kids, I think, well, I'm going to frame this way. So I remember being a young father, and probably selfishly struggling with, like, there's a lot of things that, like, I still want to be able to do by myself or whatever, like, not have, like, kids to take care of. And, like, at some point you just had to resign yourself to, like, okay, but these are my responsibilities. This is my this is my role. And there's a lot of satisfaction that comes with that too. Like, Eric, I like to mountain bike, right? and I like to mountain bike. But I think some of the most fun times I have mountain biking is when I do go with my kids, and they don't want to go with me as much anymore. But like seeing them thrive, or just like spending time with them, or seeing them like develop, and that's why I like coaching Benedict at baseball. Like just seeing him get better. There's a lot of satisfaction in like seeing your kids succeed or seeing your kids joyful. Anyway, so those are just some of my quick thoughts on having kids, and again, the more kids you have, it's just seeing the different things, right? And I mean, we're probably both a little sad that we're old now, right? So Francesco's our last baby, and we think about that. That's sad. We'll never have like this experience again. It's fun.
Your last first.
As much as it's a nuisance. And he's bad. It's fun to have a 2-year-old, right? And we'll never have that again. So it's nice to be able to have that again. When you have more children, go through those different stages and not just experience it once. It brings a lot of joy to your life. So,
I mean, I would say pretty much similar things. I feel like it's heroic to be married and to stay married and to be committed in our culture. And I don't know. I'm proud to be us because I feel like we stand out from everyone we know, because not because we're so great, but because we're battling through in a time when marriage and family is constantly under attack. And I know that even though I'm ridiculous and have a lot of bad qualities, he's not going to leave, and I'm not going to leave him. And I love having a lot of kids. Like, it is super hard. I've had to give up a lot. I almost died having Francesco, and I was told not to have him. But oh my gosh, my life would be so different if he was not part of our family. So each kid brings so much to the family that you can never replace with anything else, with a vacation or a house that's clean or, your sanity. So I just think, I don't know. I know that it's really not a thing to have a lot of kids in culture at large right now, but I think it's the best thing that we ever did. And if I didn't marry him, who knows if I would have been as open to life as we were as a married couple. And I'm just really grateful that we have the kids that we have. And I tell everyone, you should have one more kid. Have one more kid.
I always go back to what my boss Brooks Carlson told me. Everybody who has a kid or is thinking about having a kid, I always say, I had a boss, Brooks Carlson, who told me when we had 2 kids, you'll never regret having another kid. Anytime somebody brings up kids to me in conversation, having kids, I use that because I do feel like you won't ever regret having another kid. You won't be like, oh man, we shouldn't have had 8. That was a mistake,
I wish David wasn't born.
I wish. Yeah. Well, sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. No, you'll never regret it. What are your guys' thoughts? Same question.
So, very similar. And we've had, certain family members will say, "Oh, you've got too many kids. There's just too many. It's too much of a burden trying to remember." And I'm like, which one do you think we shouldn't have had? Mm-hmm. And, my biggest issue is I love the newborn stage.
Yeah.
I struggle with toddlers because they're smarter and faster than I am. But I love newborns. So I'll probably never want to stop having them because I always miss the newborn stage when we get to the toddler stage. And I think, there's so much growth that has happened with.
I think I hear your toddler.
Yeah, they've been doing it for like the last 20 minutes.
They're throwing things at the door.
Yeah.
There's been so much growth for both of us as people, as Catholics, as, spouses to each other, that we wouldn't have gone through if we didn't have a lot of kids. We wouldn't have had that commitment. We wouldn't have had that motivation to be better for them and for each other, because having a lot of kids, your time is split. You don't have that much time one-on-one. So you kind of have to you have to have the conversations you need to have. You have to value your time with your spouse. You value your time with your kids, because you don't get to say, I'll hug that kid later, because you have a lot on your plate and you have a lot of time that is already spoken for.
Yeah. And I remember when we had Gabriel, our oldest, he was born the summer between my junior and senior year of college. Amanda's 1 year, my senior almost.
I'm 6 months older than you.
Grade school wise, she's the next grade up.
I graduated a year before him.
And I remember when we found out she was pregnant, I was like, crap, I really need to get my act together, because, Amanda depends on me, sure, but not probably to the level that a newborn or another person who is biologically mine is going to depend on me for everything, material, spiritual, emotional, everything. So I remember vividly, I had this oh crap moment. I was an AB student in college, and I literally overnight became an all A student for the rest of my college career, because all of a sudden everything had more importance. Like it was a defining moment for sure, but even beyond that, it was almost like making you can hear the kids now, they're crying about something. But it was like a defining moment that almost was your arrow. Now this is where we're going. This is what we're doing, and I've got to do everything in my power to get us there. It's not all on me, of course, or Amanda, but God as well. And we're faithful to Him, and we'll be faithful back. He's faithful even if we're not, truly. But it was this moment of like honing in, I guess, is what I'm saying. And excuse me, I would say from my perspective, so we had, before I even owned a business, we already had 2 children, and the drive to need more money to pay for them, or a level of flexibility. I remember before she was pregnant with, is it Evie? We'd been pregnant with Evie. I got fired.
No, that was when Grace was.
Was that Grace?
Yeah, it was Grace. We had just found out I was pregnant with Grace.
Yeah, okay, so it was Grace. So we just found out she was pregnant, and less than a month later, I was fired. A few weeks later, I was fired from my job for something I didn't do. It's funny, God's got a sense of humor. I was fired for sharing payroll information that I didn't even have access to. It's just so funny, because then I got a job offer the next week to go work for a payroll company. And it was just like, okay, God, I hear you. And I eventually bought into Workforce, is what it became. But we had the 2 kids going into that. And before I owned Workforce, I remember that third kid, it was, it was Grace still. I took like I was just telling earlier, I took a sales call from my bed. Grace was born. I had a meeting scheduled with a prospect for a pretty large deal. So, and I'm a little bit of ashamed of this now, but it was like all driven by trying to take care of them. I left Amanda and Grace with my parents in the hotel room, or not the hotel room. It was not a hotel. Hospital room. And I go out to my car, and I sit in the parking lot for the next hour and a half doing a demo. This is when I still did demos. I was doing a demo, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, hour and a half after she was born. And like those moments I can think in my head define pushing you. I sometimes wonder, those people that don't have the level of responsibility that taking care of a spouse or a child, it's almost impossible to be as driven as well, because you don't have, there's a level of weight and responsibility that it's going to push you, like Amanda said, to be focused on the present when you're with someone. You don't know what's going to happen next, to be more focused on everything, career, faith, everything becomes amplified almost, where you're trying to make it work for your family and not just for you. So that's probably been the biggest thing for me, is the growth in that regard, I think.
Yeah. So I wrote down a couple things as you were talking that resonated with me or stood out to me, but I could tell Amanda was more mature than you. So it makes sense if she's 6 months your senior. We said something else about God's sense of humor, and I was
Actually,
thinking
7 months. I think she was just trying to hide that a little bit.
Yeah.
as you guys were talking, and you were talking about God's sense of humor and being fired, I was thinking about stories about how God always has seemed to provide, right? And I mean, whatever it is, when we think things aren't going to work out. I mean, I remember one story of like $500 cash showed up in our mailbox one day when we had no money, but story after story, I was fired at one point from a job for actually basically exposing some theft. I found people were stealing in a retail organization I was working with, and then I got fired with the group. But it ended up being more money for me because an old manager who worked there before hired me at another place because he knew I wasn't, and I ended up immediately making more money someplace else because of that. So it was very frustrating, but it was also probably, God's sense of humor and a way of getting me, into a job with more money. The other thing I was thinking is Amanda was talking about loving the newborn stage. Eric, I don't know if I ever told you my analogy that I use for payroll implementation sometimes.
Okay.
Because people would, talk about like, oh, I went so-and-so and the implementation was just horrible. Like, I don't want to switch payroll, right? Because it's so terrible switching. And I would always say, especially when you're talking to like a firm who's moving lots of payrolls, I would say, well, it's like the pain of childbirth, right? Like, you have to go through this painful, horrible thing, but at the end of it, there's going to be a beautiful baby, right? And it's your beautiful new payroll, right? It's going to be painful to go through. And my sales reps I would get on phone calls with firms, and like my sales reps would be like, please don't use that analogy, but I love that analogy. It's like, a payroll implementation can be like the pain of childbirth, but there's a beautiful baby at the other end. So,
Oh my goodness. Pregnancy joke. We have different skins on the software. It's kind of changed a little bit with different looks and feels over the years. At one point, to add a new row, there is a plus button. Mm-hmm. I swear the plus button looked like a pregnancy task. Uh-huh. So I was given a presentation to a company with about 100 employees. We were doing a new client training, and I would say 75%, maybe 80% were women in the group. And I thought I was being clever. I said, no, all you have to do is click on the positive pregnancy test button, and you can add a new row to add your additional time, because they enter time. Enter your additional time. I got a talking to by the HR department from their company that one of their employees just went through a miscarriage, which is super sad. I felt like crap afterwards now, because I did notice an employee walked out of the room partway through the presentation. I just assumed something else. So I thought I was being clever, and then I ended up hurting someone's feelings, and that made me feel bad.
I still think it was clever. It was just, unfortunate.
I still do too. I just try to read the room better now.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on over an hour now. Do we want to wrap up, or?
We probably didn't get through all our questions. Is there anything else you wanted to ask before we end?
Why don't we ask the wives? Was there anything they wanted to ask or say that they didn't get a chance to say?
I don't think so.
No?
Okay. You can both answer this one. What is it that you feel you miss out on the most? Being, if you're working in an office, even if you're working from home and you're just not in the thick of things day to day, is there something you feel like you wish you could be more involved in?
I would say I'll answer first, Dave. I earlier on in the career, when I was putting in regularly 10 to 12 hour days, I was sometimes upset. Like, they would get their first haircut without me. They would say their first words when I wasn't around. The first time they walked, I wasn't home yet. So probably the first four kids or so, that was probably, unfortunately, the story. I would say 2019, we had a house fire. It was July 2nd of 2019. We had a house fire, and that was probably another one of those straight and narrow, because through my head I would have lost everyone, because none of our fire alarms were working. I think I mentioned it in a previous one, but that was kind of when I reordered priorities, and family became more important than work, as it should have been in the beginning. But that's probably mine, was missing out on some of my older kids first. I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, yeah, that stuff always stinks when you miss out on stuff, right? But I think to your point about the fire and not, I think that's the stuff, right? That probably like you wish you could be there when something's going wrong or like something stressful, like, I wish I could just go home and help deal with this thing. I think you can fool yourself into thinking. Now, it's different for you, Eric, running a business because I think you need to spend a lot more hours there. But I think you can fool yourself into thinking, I need to be there more for the moments, right? Sure, those are important, but I think it's important to also work and, set a good example for your family. So, I don't know, that's something I contemplate a lot about, and I would contemplate it when I had sales reps that would work for me who could take a lot of paternity leave time, right? And think, well, I need to be there to bond. And I'm like, well, I guess you got to do what you got to do, right? But you also got to think about your career and you got to think about supporting your family. And if you just take a lot of time off, you might not be able to support your family in a sales career. So that's a father's role sometimes, that you don't get to be there for every little thing. And sometimes I think that does a lot of good for your family beyond just the money that necessarily comes in. It's the example you set of the hard work. It's a lot of things. So I wouldn't overemphasize the things that maybe I've missed. I think when I feel it though most, it's like when something's wrong at home or, when you, what did you eat that one time?
Oh yeah, I had an allergic reaction to a kiwi. I'm like, no, I can eat all food. I'm allergic to nothing. He was out of town.
Oh, I was at a
All the
conference in
kids were
Detroit,
gone.
but I was staying the night in Detroit for a conference. And there's lots of situations like that. I was like, shoot, I wish I was home right now, right? She had some sort of allergic reaction, could barely breathe. And it's like, I'm in Detroit. And I ended up coming home that night instead of staying at the hotel. And it was a fun story because I came home. There was also a raccoon in our yard with distemper. So it was sitting by our garbage pail and the kids couldn't bring the pail up from the curb. I don't know if I could say this on the podcast, but I had to put it out of its misery. And the next morning, when I kicked off our sales meeting, I was back in Detroit. I said, I hope I'm the only one who had to discharge a firearm last night. But anyway, it's that sort of stuff, not being able to be there for the stuff that you could take care of that I think I miss most.
I had to discharge a firearm last week as well.
Yeah.
About 6 times.
Also trying to get a raccoon. He was unsuccessful.
I was unsuccessful.
We have one that'll come sit on our back deck and put its little paws up on the door.
And looking at us eating at our table irritates the crap out of me. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I enjoyed this. I don't know if the ladies enjoyed this. My wife was lecturing me all day on getting her the questions and exactly how this whole thing was going to go
I
down.
wasn't told it was on camera.
She says she wasn't told. I
had no idea. No idea. I didn't do my hair. I'm not wearing makeup. I'm sweaty.
Yeah, I asked. I was like, nobody's going to see me, right? And he's like, no, it's on camera.
You look great. I'm gross.
You look great.
She got a haircut yesterday and she got her
did.
makeup done
I
today.
really
I did do my makeup before we did this. Yep.
Well, we should do this again. Maybe not on a podcast, but maybe we could just, get together sometime and do this. But yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'll buy Amanda a drink.
I appreciate that.
I did offer it to her. I wouldn't go on record. So, well, awesome. I don't know if there's anything salesy about this episode, but if there is anything you wanted to discuss with Dave or I, you can reach out to us at info@workforcepayhub.com.
Well, workforcepayhub.com. We were talking about, you were talking about supporting, we never got to this, but you're talking about how we support, our wives support us. One way my wife would support me, I've told you this several times, we go to a chamber event and she'd say to somebody, you got to go talk to my husband about payroll, where I wouldn't necessarily bring it up first to chat with people, but she'd just send people my way, go talk to my husband about payroll. So, yeah.
When you're ready to get a job after Francesco, it's Francesco, right? That's the youngest.
Yeah.
Yes, I got it right. Once he's old enough and you want to get out a little bit, let me know. Awesome.
I don't think I'm going to ever want to get out.
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Christ the King, saliva non sa malo. Christ the King, saliva non sa malo. Christ the King.